Craig Gray at PeaceWalker.net. We are on the Protector Summit, and today I am with Denny Gillem. And you know, this is an honor for me today, Denny, because usually you're the one interviewing me on your radio show. So
guilty, shoes on the other foot today.
Right. So thank you so much for being a part of this. As you folks know out there, this whole project is about developing a protector's lifestyle.
Yes.
And I decided to kind of contact my compadres and friends and colleagues who are military, both still in the military as well as veterans, such as yourself, to tell a little bit of your story. I think all you guys have a really good story to tell, and also about this idea of being a protector and how it transitioned from a professional protector in the military to a protector in the civilian world. And you are a very special case too, not only because you've known each other for so long, but also obviously you have Frontlines of Freedom talk radio show that you've been educating people for quite a few years now with this idea of being a protector in all its different facets and helping and being very involved with the veteran community. So, Denny, for all you folks out there, could you just kind of tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what you're doing now, but also your military background?
Yeah, I am an oddball in my family. Most of my relatives, male relatives, my father's line, as far back as I know, none of them were ever in the military. They were all cops.
Really?
My father's father was a police officer killed in the line of duty. My father's brother was an FBI agent. My son's a cop.
Yep.
Sister's involved. So I'm the oddball. I decided to go in the Army. And I decided, I don't even know, somewhere high school age, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I took ROTC in high school and liked it. Applied for West Point, took me 3 times to get in. My high school grades were good but not great, and my first year of college was horrible. My second year of college was very good, and I got into West Point at that point.
Nice.
I wanted to go in the infantry, which is close combat. I did, graduated, went to airborne and ranger schools. My first duty assignment at Fort Carson, Colorado, on a blind date, I met a young lady that I've been married to for 52 years.
I think I know this young lady.
Yes, you have met Marilyn more than once. 2 weeks after I met her, I proposed. 2 weeks after I proposed, she said yes. And 2 weeks later, I got ordered to Vietnam.
Oh, jeez.
So 2 months after she said yes, I went to Vietnam. So our engagement period was long distance.
Yeah.
Went to Vietnam as a rifle platoon leader for 6 months and some pretty hairy stuff. Then served as a general's aide for 6 months, came back and married Marilyn. Went to Fort Carson. My next assignment with her was 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I got the best job in the world for somebody. I was given command of an airborne rifle company, which is the total dream job. So I had the total dream lady as my new bride and the total dream job. That was the best year of my life. During that summer, we came to the Detroit riots, which was not something I really was looking forward to, but we did, and that was certainly a challenge. Certainly protectors were important there.
Right.
And that December, our whole division deployed to Vietnam. So I've been back a year, deployed to Vietnam for a year into some very, very heavy fighting around 1068, the city of Hue. After X number of months, I was moved to division headquarters and was an operations guy for the rest of my tour. Came back and had a fairly normal career. I asked for and was sent to get a graduate degree at University of Texas at El Paso in political science, international relations. I got promoted quite early to the rank of major. My next assignment was at Stanford University, where, among other things, we were being thrown off campus.
Yeah.
I was there to assist overseeing that. It was totally non-violent, but it had been violent before I got there. Maybe they didn't want somebody that me like that. But while there, I picked up another master's degree. One of my secrets to getting out easy was my first cousin was a graduate of Stanford Army ROTC, was then an attorney, and he was the attorney advising the people throwing ROTC off campus. So between the
Oh, jeez.
two of us, it was totally nonviolent. Totally nonviolent. We phased out, did our thing. I went to War College and then to station in Germany with a rifle battalion. Came back and was a Mideast war planner for 4 years. During that time, the Iranians seized our consulate, and we did the rescue attempt and all that kind of stuff. At that point, I was given a ROTC, University of Tampa ROTC department. At that point, I was at 20 years, and I was thinking I didn't really want to stay in for another 10, but I wasn't sure. Now, while I was not sure, they signed me to Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And here you are.
Where I was Army advisor of the Michigan National Guard.
Yep.
And fell in love with West Michigan. Loved the culture, loved the seasons.
Because you're originally from California, right?
Originally from California. My wife and I have been here 35 years now. So, along in there, when my son became a police officer, when he graduated from college, I decided I should get involved too. So I tried. He was in the Holland Police Department. They have a reserve, but they said we don't want anybody that live near us. We need you when we need you.
Right.
So I joined the Kent County Sheriff's Reserves.
Because didn't you go to be sheriff at one point in time?
Yes, and I ran for sheriff of Kent County in the year 2000.
2000. Seems like it was.
There were 5 candidates. I came in second. I lost to the undersheriff, who was the anointed replacement, and once I lost to him, he fired me for crimes running against him.
That's pretty common. I voted for you, if it's any...
You should have voted a few more times. So...
It's down in Florida, I think, that they do.
Being a protector is something I've never thought about not being. I guess it has to do with the West Point culture, duty on our country. It has to do with being a combat veteran. It has to do with seeing other people get hurt in combat or other places, Detroit riots. It has to do with having relatives in law enforcement. And I think it just has to do with common sense. I mean, one of my favorite authors on that subject talks about sheepdogs and wolves, and that is a pretty good summary of life. Most people just want to live their life and live it quietly and do their thing, and that's good. The problem is there are wolves who aren't going to let you, and therefore that requires somebody to intervene, and that's the sheepdogs, and that's the protectors. And you can be I guess you could be a sheep and a sheepdog at the same time.
Yeah, I think so.
I want to live my life and be left alone.
Yeah.
But if you mess with me or people around me, I got to mess back.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, because I know it's a lot of the folks that I'm talking with, like yourselves, most of them I know on a personal level at some point, or a professional level, or both. You work with the veteran community a lot.
I do.
Some people have made that transition, I don't know, easily is the right term, but they have made the transition from being in the military, whether it was their 2 or 4 year stint or they were lifers. Can you speak a little bit to those folks who are maybe struggle with the transition from full-time military or even are part-timers to being a civilian in the context of being protectors? Because I run into a lot of them in what I do, and some of them had made good transitions and some of them are a little lost. Do you have anything, advice to them or insights to them on if they are struggling with that transition of their identity as being a protector? How could they maybe help with that a little bit?
That's a valid question, and it's not one I ever experienced.
Right.
It's a little bit like post-traumatic stress. Very few people have been in more grueling combat than I have. I never had any problems. So I initially thought that was all made up.
Yeah, sure.
I was wrong. It took some of my friends to explain to me I was wrong. But yes, I do see people, veterans, struggling with that transition. And I can talk for a long time on the skills that the military instills in you if you do even a halfway good job: teamwork, understanding authority, taking responsibility. These are skills that employers want. I've been a hiring employer since I got out.
Yeah, right.
And those are the skills I'm looking for. I can teach you how to do what I want you to do. I can't teach you to have a good attitude. I can't teach you to be a team member.
Right.
I can't teach you to, and those are the things that most veterans bring with them. And I talked to them about that. I said, the only thing you have to really learn is how to talk civilian, not military.
Yeah, sure.
And
I'm on the opposite. I mean, as you know, I've not been in the military, but I think I probably hang around and both in my work environment as well as my non-work environment, I probably hang out with more veterans almost than I do with civilians that have never had any service, whether they're vets or police officers.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of the odd duck out to a certain degree, and that can be odd for me. So I can understand it in reverse when maybe you're the only vet talking military type language to a bunch of civilians who they're not getting it.
But the idea of being a protector, once you understand that there are, to use my terminology, wolves that people need to be protected from.
Right.
Once you understand that and how to do it, whether it's with or without weapons, but always with your personality,
right,
and how you employ your personality.
Yeah.
That's a skill that is easily retained, I think. All skills, shooting, all that kind of stuff is perishable skills,
yeah.
And you have to work at it to maintain a high level of proficiency. But I can tell you that one of the things I struggle with is that my mind tells me I can still do it. It's my body that can't do it.
Right.
So, but attitudinally, therefore, veterans their mind should be telling them, I can do it before I can do it again.
Right.
And then it's only a question of, I want to do it well, so therefore I have to have some training or
Yeah.
some practice or some relationships that will produce that. So I would be surprised, though I know what you're saying is true, that veterans don't see, not everybody doesn't do anything, but the majority of veterans couldn't see themselves in the protector role, whether employed as a cop, and a lot of them do go to work in law enforcement. But I didn't. I'm in sales and education and consulting. I never occurred to me that I would not be a protector, though I wouldn't have used that terminology till I met you.
Right.
And you started. You helped me label things properly, but because a thought that's not labeled is a little hard to grab hold of
Right.
and to analyze. It's when you can put it into some structure that it makes sense. And maybe that structure is what's missing. I never thought of myself as a protector, but it never occurred to me that I wouldn't protect.
Right.
And the other aspect of, for most of all of my military, I was an airborne ranger, 6'3", highly decorated, and I knew I buffaloed my way through an awful lot of stuff.
Denny, I don't believe it. Come on.
I know a lot of my peers who, when they came back from Vietnam, were spit on by people when they were walking through the airport. I had a look on my face that said, "Come on," and not only me, but anybody within that I can see.
Right. It's not going to happen on my watch.
Yeah,
Right.
and I didn't do it intentionally.
Right.
Or most of the time I didn't do it intentionally.
Yeah, but that was part of your identity. I mean, that
Yes,
was
it's part of my identity.
Because like the 5 basic areas that I teach and inspire in other people, or try to anyways, is understanding their true identity. And I think our true identities, if we look really deep, are protectors. Whether some people want to admit it or not, with a little verbal jujitsu there, it's easy to have people realize that. And then their attitude, their awareness, their influence, and obviously their actions. And I think, your identity was already so dialed in on that,
Yes.
that everything else kind of came out of that.
And, and I'm still 6'3", and well, I've got a little more weight, I'm not out of shape, round is a shape.
You're not round, Denny.
But it wouldn't occur to me to back off
Right.
in a situation where I thought I could be productive. I wouldn't empty-handed charge a machine gun, because that's what I do. I wouldn't do that. But if I thought there was any way I could influence a bad situation, I'd do it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd probably be 3 steps towards it before I decided, oops, maybe I shouldn't be.
Yeah, right.
And how much better our world would be if people had that attitude.
Yeah. And the clarity of protecting the right things.
Yes.
Because let's face it, there are a lot of guys out there and gals too that, they are hard chargers, but some of them are protecting the wrong stuff. These terrorists and
Yes.
people who are, whether they're mentally deranged or they're just sociologically or psychologically off, and they,
Yes.
it's like you're...
Because I guess you could say, in a different way, the wolves are in fact a different form of sheepdog, because they are fighting for, defending, acting on behalf of their value set, whatever that is. And they can't have any more skills than anybody else can have, so
Right.
it's sort of a protector and a protector to the -1. It's really...
Yeah, they're just dialed into the wrong frequency.
Yeah.
It's like you're protecting stuff, but you don't realize that you're protecting the wrong stuff, And there's some people that, I do believe there are some people that are just purely evil.
Yes.
That are so misguided that there's no kind of bringing them around.
Yes.
But I think the majority of the people don't fall into that category. Luckily for us,
Yeah.
I think most people are good people, I think, and wouldn't really go out of their way to hurt anybody else. And luckily, I think that's the majority of our world population. And there are a few that are misguided, as far as they're tuned into the wrong frequency, and they could be influenced. And then there's a select few of those special characters who are just totally off base, and there's no rationalizing with them.
Yes.
And that's where it comes into, I think, being a protector, and how influencing, and this is why the reason for this Protectors Summit as well, so for you guys out there, is helping people to have the structure to say, wow, I guess I am a protector, whether you're the vet or you've maybe never been in the military at all.
Or law enforcement or anything.
Right. Which brings us maybe kind of to our second topic of discussion, which is, if you had some advice to someone who was never in the military, never really interested in maybe that type of a environment, but they still want to be protectors, they still want to protect themselves and their families and their communities, what are maybe a couple things that you could recommend for those folks to do?
When I was in graduate school, there was one of the profs. I got along very well with all my profs, though they were all social scientists, which meant hyper-liberal. And one of them, who was a total pacifist, told me, Denny, I know the only reason I can be a total pacifist is because there are people like you out there protecting me. And I thought, now here's a guy who has his act together. I don't agree with where he is,
Right.
but he's not in denial. He's so one is to realize that when there is danger for human beings, somebody has to do something.
Yeah.
And why not you? If a bad guy comes in with a gun and you don't have a gun, are you just going to let him shoot you? Or are you just going to stand around or hide your head while he shoots everybody else? Or if whether he's got a weapon or not, he's beating up some women or some kids, you're just going to watch? Well, if the answer is no, I'm not going to just watch, or I'm not going to watch if it's my kids. If there's anything that could make you say, yes, I'll stand up for that, then you better be ready. And just because you're ready doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
But if you aren't ready, you can't.
Yes.
Or you can't effectively.
You can't effectively, right? And I think also on that point, what we've seen, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, and you folks I know have seen it if you think about it, but is if you have the skills, you are more likely to see the situation for what it is and
Yes.
have the courage to stand up. Where you might not, even though you had wanted to, you might not have done that in the past. Kind of like see somebody drowning and you're a capable swimmer. I probably have more courage to jump in the water and rescue them versus either I'm a weak swimmer or I can't swim at all, and I want to, but it's like I hesitate because I might end up getting drowning myself.
Well, yeah, I think there's two things there. And one is, if you have the skills, you can use them, and hopefully you'll maintain them at some kind of a level. But even if you haven't maintained them lately, they're still there.
Yes.
But two, and one of the things, and I learned this from you, I knew it, but I didn't know what to call it, I wasn't paying attention, was situational awareness. I did that in combat.
Right.
And I did it, but since I didn't know what to call it, I didn't pay attention to it.
Sure.
I don't know how to describe that. But that situational awareness, you don't have to have any defensive skills if you can stay away from the bad situation.
Right. Right.
Oh, look at those guys down the street. I think I'll go down this street.
And the smart move, right?
So there's two separate sets of skills.
Yeah.
But together, your defensive skills at whatever level they are, and situational awareness, I would venture to say that would deal with 90% of all negative situations that occur in your turf.
Absolutely. So
Is that reasonable?
I think so. I think what I hear you saying is get some training.
Yes.
Get some skills.
Yeah.
And you guys can choose what kind of skills you want. I mean, not everybody wants to be holding a gun or carrying a weapon.
Right.
In some states that you're in, you can't.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be, you're going to be Wyatt Earp out there, nor does it mean that you're going to be Jason Bourne or Bruce Lee or something. I mean, there's a lot of different types of skills that you can get to be better at defending yourself and other people. And then that situational awareness point, I think, is huge as well.
And when you do that, your self-image goes up, which lets you be more effective in almost everything you're doing, because you've got the sense that I can take care of things, at least to some degree. And again, in my experience, if you will stand up and face something, most of the people that are going to try to hurt you are not willing to fight.
No, they want an easy target.
They want an easy target, and the minute you show reasonable resistance, they're going to find another target.
Yeah.
Now, there's that 1 or 2 out of 10 that are
sure.
okay, but they're going to get you anyway.
Yeah.
You're no worse off because you're resisting.
Right.
And perhaps 8 times out of 10, you're going to be better off.
Yeah.
And whether it's hand to hand or whether it's some kind of weapons,
Or it's words, or it's just being there.
just squaring away.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what I did. I just,
Yeah, but when you're like a mountain of a man, you're 6'3", and you're like, you got that stare. I can see where that would be a little intimidating.
And one of my best buddies at West Point, who's 5'4", George couldn't get away with that.
Right.
But that dude could box. I'll tell you what, I didn't want to fight him. So there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yes, that's for sure.
I shouldn't say that. My cat would object to that. So.
All the PETA people out there, next thing you know, will be picketing. But no, I think you're absolutely right. Everyone has a different, not just skill set, but also approach and what works for them.
Yes.
Some people are really good with influencing in different manners. Some people it's command presence. Some people it's being gregarious enough to talk around situations or help lead and influence people in different ways. Some people they have the physical abilities and where others might not. So it's not about I think you folks out there putting yourselves in danger to do anything, but it's understanding that protectors come in all flavors and sizes and shapes and ages and backgrounds and ethnicities and all this, as long as we're dialed into protecting the right thing, which you exude, I think, as far as you have a love for people. You have a love for human beings. And that comes out in everything that you do. And I think you take it for granted. just like maybe some of those other things that. Now, I don't mean that in a bad taking for granted. I think it's so interwoven in your fibers of yourself that you don't realize it, so you have a hard time maybe articulating that is so important. Just like the protector idea, identity, and the situational awareness and that type of stuff.
Well, and if you don't do anything else in a bad situation, but instead of freaking out, pull out your phone and dial 911, you've done something.
Yes. Yeah.
The concept of I can do something and I should do something makes you a protector.
It does.
And where you are on that path, you can be the hyper at one end or the other, or
right. You can be the hard charger on one end, or
yeah.
just the silent observer to a certain degree that is willing to say something on the other.
As opposed to becoming a victim and freaking out and basically making the bad guy's job easier.
Yeah. Because there's a bunch of quotes that come to mind. Of course, I would slaughter, but the idea of one person stepping up, all of a sudden more people step up. It only takes one person. Usually,
yes.
That's the hardest part, is being that first person. So then there goes again back into the identity aspects and the skill and the training and all that to be more apt to be that person to step up. And step up in the right way for the right reasons, for the right thing.
That's clearly a military thing.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to stand up and say, follow me. That's the motto of the infantry. Infantry leaders lead. And it's true everywhere. Because if there's a leader that you like and respect, you're going to follow them.
Yeah.
Most of the time. And it's also will change the environment for the attacker.
Absolutely.
And they may just go away. So, I think the question is, why would anybody not want to be a protector?
I think that is a better question.
My wife, who was a PE major, was in really good physical shape. She's still in pretty good shape. She would not be the kind of person who would want to be in a fight. But if you want to attack her kids, that'd be a different game.
Yeah.
And since everybody probably has that, well, for this I would, well, then you better have a skill or two.
Yeah.
And it's not something you have to dedicate your whole life to and change your lifestyle and do everything else. But it does mean I got to get ready for this.
Yeah. And making that decision. Just making that decision of if not me, then who?
And if not now, then when? The bad guy's here now. What am I going to do? Tremble and shake, cry,
Or do something.
or do something.
All right, so we're having a really good conversation off camera, so I figured we might as well, transition back into on camera. But we were talking about, Denny, do you see there being a gap between the veteran and military community and our civilian community? And I think this is an interesting conversation, especially for you, because you're a Vietnam vet, so you remember the times back in the 60s and 70s when, and I don't even remember if you said it on camera or if it was off camera, but, the military soldiers had come back from overseas and people were spitting on them and picketing, and there was a lot of violence in that regards towards our military, and that has changed.
Yes.
But do you still see a fissure between a basic understanding and a kind of congruency between military, former military, and civilians?
Well, yeah. The Vietnam War pretty much saw the end of the draft. So everybody could serve in Vietnam, and everybody could get spit on when they came home. And the media was certainly very, very hostile to the military.
Yeah.
Today, it's an all-volunteer military, so there won't, theoretically, only those who want to serve are serving. But there are so few of them that there's a awareness. It's sort of, well, it's very common. When I'm in uniform, it's very common for me to have people thank me for my service, or when somebody knows I'm a veteran, thank me for my service. And that's fine, and it's part of our culture today, and it's rare for that not to happen. But by the same token, they don't have a clue of what we've been through, what we're prepared to do, and clearly they don't want to do it themselves, or they'd be doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a gap, and what I think it's representative of is a lack of a desire to serve,
Okay.
a lack of a desire to protect. I like being free, thank you for paying for my freedom. Sort of like I'm 15 and you're my dad, and I want to play soccer, and you buy me my soccer ball and you pay for the trip, and I don't have to like everything about you, but I'm willing to let you keep paying for my
Sure.
you know. So yeah, there needs to be an understanding, and I think it goes back to the topic of being a protector. I want to be protected, and my concern beyond that is, as our national culture becomes more and more of one hating and name calling, name calling is going to lead to physical violence at times.
Yeah, because it turns into dehumanization.
Yes.
And some of those scars run deep when you start making personal slurs upon people. And
Sure. You know, if you and I disagree on some policy matter, we can discuss that and argue it and still be friends.
Right.
But the minute I attack your humanity by calling you names and you call me names, we're not going to be friends.
Well, and that's the first thing that seems to happen nowadays too.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we can thank, I think, a lot of things, I suppose, but social media helps to exacerbate that, because I can stay over in my dark little corner,
Yes.
troll you, and we never have to see face to face,
Right.
you know, to feel the emotion and backlash to a certain degree, but also I think the empathy of, you know, calling someone a so and such face to face with somebody
Yes.
is way different than doing it online.
Right. So I fear that we're moving towards more violence. And if that's true, then we certainly need more protectors. And generally speaking, in my experience, I think it's probably the same as yours, protectors don't seem to advocate violence. They're just prepared to use it if necessary.
Yeah, I think real protectors are,
Yes.
absolutely. They're prepared to go step up to the plate and skilled enough and have got the clarity to do it, but they, you know, it's a last resort. And hopefully you have enough skills in your toolbox, in your wheelhouse, that you have other options rather than just, you know, throwing out the violence card. And also I think along with that, if you do it in the right way and have the right mentors and the right skill set and the right clarity, it makes you more courageous, and it also, I think, gives you a certain resiliency.
Oh yeah. Understanding that you have this ability. I'm more likely to want to use it if I'm confident that I've got the training, maintained the skills, even if not all of them, some of them. That's a leg up, and the person or people that are the problem may not have. And again, in most cases, as we've discussed, they probably will not face up to someone who's confronting them.
Okay.
So I can't see a downside. I mean, if I were a football coach and I was recruiting you as a kid to be a player, I would want you to have skills that you could use, and the more blocking, tackling skills you had, the better attitude you'd have about yourself.
Right. You'd feel more comfortable being in the thick of it if you felt like you could actually do something.
And probably once you got off the football field, you'd maintain that good attitude.
Yeah.
So being able to protect yourself and others seems to me a skill that virtually everybody would want. It's not right for everybody. I'm not trying to suggest that.
Right,
But
I agree.
the majority of people, just being able to do something and feeling comfortable they know how to do it, being able to practice it, and at some level, high level, low, progressing, whatever, got to make them feel better.
Yeah.
I could use you and my wife as an example. Some time ago, my wife has never had any hand-to-hand, and we took, what, an hour together, the four of us, and
Yeah.
you showed her a few moves. That made a huge difference in her. She feels now that she's got some skills that she can use. How much better can that be?
Yeah, and in an
You know,
hour's worth of time.
and she's in her 70s, so think what that could have meant 50 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So everybody can have that level of, but you've got to go reach out for it. And if you do, and then maintain it, both mentally and physically, however little or much it is, or how much you grow it, or whatever, you're going to be a happier person, a more confident person in your whole life, I think.
Yeah, because I think a lot of us, well, all of us, I believe, have an inclination to protect ourselves, and even more so our families and those that we love and,
Sure.
and we identify with. I don't know if I've ever really spoken with a person who didn't have somebody in their life that they would put themselves in jeopardy for. And I think it starts getting a little hazier as we kind of expand that tribe out of, well, protecting others and all others, really? I mean, how does that work, really? And I think as a professional protector, whether you're in the military or police, or even, because that's with human conflict a lot, but even if you go into your first responder type roles of firemen and this type of thing, putting their lives in jeopardy for people they don't know, that I think, and some of the sheepdog talk I think really speaks to that a little bit more. I believe that we are all protectors, and some people just need to dial it in a little bit differently if they can, with some clarity. So would you say, like some of those folks, kind of looping back around to the subject matter of this one, with closing the gap of military and non-military personnel, would you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you think training as a protector, if you've never been in the military or police or anything, if you take it upon yourself to train as a protector, that might help put that understanding a little bit more of?
Oh, heck yes, absolutely. Because first responders, well, let me not go that broad. Military and police, their primary mission is to be prepared to use force to cause right things to happen.
Right.
For other first responders will put their lives on the line, firefighters and others, but they're not using force particularly.
Right.
So I don't mean to demean them.
But it's different.
It's different. Knowing that you can use force if you have to, has to give you a better understanding for people who use force.
Yeah.
And understanding the skills, it just doesn't, well, I've got a guy who's 6'8" and was a starting lineman for Michigan State. You don't mess with
he makes you look small.
You don't make Dave big Dave. You don't mess with Big Dave. You see him, or whatever you want. Man.
Yeah, whatever.
But for the rest of us normal human beings,
Yes.
just knowing that I do have some skills I could use if I needed them, and if you're smart enough to realize you do have to maintain them.
Yeah.
Most of those skills are perishable. Your mind will tell you they're not, but your body will confirm that they are.
Yeah, I think we all have been there at some point.
So I think that would certainly do that, because it moves you into the bigger ballpark of protector.
Well, and people, I think, have a better understanding of, because I like what you were saying about, the people in law enforcement and military, any security type services, to where there's human on human conflict.
Yes.
And that is the most, and I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but you can look up the studies and the facts up there from the doctors to be, but the stress that comes out of human on human conflict is the most stressful ordeal that we can have as human beings.
Yes.
Now, granted, is stressful being, seeing trauma, seeing someone hurt from a natural disaster or an accident or something? Absolutely is. And you can obviously accumulate injuries in that regards psychologically. But the idea of human on human conflict is the highest level
Yes.
of, I think, stress that we can have as human beings. So if you embrace that as a protector and start getting skilled in that and training in that, I don't see how you can't have a more empathy and a better connection with people that have done it or are doing it as a profession. To say, hey, maybe I didn't serve in the military, but I trained in this, that, or the other thing, and I see what you go through, right? Or I at least have a concept of it from a little bit more personal standpoint than just, hey, thank you for your service. I appreciate it, which they may or may not, but
Well, you're stepping into the ballpark.
yeah.
You may not be ready to play pitcher or catcher.
You went from the observer to a player,
Yeah, you might be out in right field,
or even on the bench,
Or even
right?
on the bench.
But you're
you're in the field.
You're in the field.
You joined the
you're on the team,
You're on
right?
the team.
You're on
You
the
joined
team.
And how can that not help at every level? So yeah, and I never thought of the way you put it, but yes,
Yeah.
I totally see it that way.
Well, good. I agree. I mean, again, that's what a big push for this project is helping to bridge some of those gaps in that way of understanding we are all on the same team. Do you want to be a player?
Yeah.
Can you, even if we're sitting on the bench? Because let's face it, too, as we if you think of like the special ops guys. Whether I've been doing a lot of interviews with some folks that are near and dear to your heart as well from Israel. Elliot, and I don't know if you ever met Shmuel or not, but so some of these cats that are in Israel doing some of the same things. But when you're a hard charger, whether you're a SEAL or a Dubdavan or whatever flavor that you're on, or Army Airborne Ranger, your shelf life of kind of being the tip of the spear to that capacity is somewhat short.
Yes.
But just because you're not there anymore doesn't mean you're off the team.
Right.
Right? Or if you never had that opportunity to be one, maybe you chose not to go in the military, or maybe you're in the military and tried out but you didn't make it for that particular position.
Well, I met a guy a couple of years ago who we both graduated from high school the same year, 1958. He joined the Army and became a Ranger and served for 6 or 8 years. There was no war then.
Right.
And he's not even considered a veteran by some people. Because he didn't serve in combat. And I thought, nonsense.
Right.
You stepped forward, you made yourself a vet. You don't get to pick when there's wars.
Right.
Thank goodness.
Right. Well, in that sense, too, because I had a discussion on this with somebody not that long ago. I forget who, but because she had somewhat of the not the same. She wasn't saying whether or not veterans and all this, but it was like, well, he didn't serve in a war or didn't see combat. And I said, yeah, but he still volunteered to, hey, here's my life. Tell me what to do and where to go. I'll sign the check over to you. You tell me what to do. So he still made the sacrifice, or she in the case of it, to I'm still going to step up. There may not be, like you're saying, there may not be a conflict at that point in time, but I'm still volunteering for whatever comes my way, and I'll put my life down on the line for it.
Or if you were drafted, you didn't go to Canada.
Right. Right.
And the war's here, and they decide they need you in the Pentagon. You're serving.
Yeah, that's the service.
Where do you serve? Where you're told, not where you want to serve.
Yeah.
Where you're told.
Yeah.
And could you have been? Yes. I have a very good friend who's almost my age. He was in the Air Force. I was in the Army. He spent the whole Vietnam War in Germany because he's fluent in German, and
that's where they needed it.
And that's where they needed it. And so he's not a combat veteran. He served.
Right.
For like 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody just needs to ask the question, is there anybody in the world that I would defend with my life if necessary? And if so, you better get a skill, because that might happen. And once you've got it, you might be able to protect somebody besides those people.
Yeah.
Not to mention yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the whole world gets safer.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's hard to be peaceful in a violent community, and because you're going to have some rough choices to make. And it's also the opposite is also true. It's hard to be violent in a peaceful community, because they're going to weed you out. They're they're going to put you on they're going to vote you off the island, right?
That's right.
So the more protectors that I think we can, I wouldn't even say make. I don't think we make protectors. What I think we do is we tune them. We tune them into their natural inclination and clarify it. But the more protectors that we have in earnest, the safer we all are, as long as we're protecting the right things.
Yes. Your value set is you. And if your value set is something like ours, then you could be a protector.
Yeah.
And if your goal is you want to kill me and everybody like me, okay,
Yeah,
I don't think that'll
it's not going to fly.
No,
Right?
but there aren't too many of those people here.
That's very true. I mean, there's not.
And when you confront one, or when you are in a position where you are confronted by one, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's it.
Cry?
Or stand up and do something. Well, Denny, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your service, both in your past military service, but also what you do now. And I wanted to end on this note. What are some of the things that you're doing now that maybe some of those folks out there would like to be a part of or contact you on? Because I know you run Front Lines of Freedom talk radio show. Could you maybe speak a little bit on what that's about?
Yeah, Front Lines of Freedom, we're concluding our 12th year. It's the largest military talk radio show in the nation. We're in 180 something stations right now. 2-hour show once a week. Most military talk radio shows are the old Sarge and the other old Sarge are talking about how things were in the
Right.
foxhole. We stay at a different level. We talk about foreign policy and military policy and veterans affairs. We've talked to cabinet members and congressmen and generals and admirals and privates and corporals and wives and kids
And even guys like me.
even civilians.
I know, crazy, right?
So it's a different level, but it's fun. Like I said, we're in our 12th year. Keeping it going is my major effort right now.
How many radio stations are you on across the nation?
About 180. And
I can remember when it was like in the single digits.
yes, we were in the fives for a while.
Seriously, I remember that. I mean, it's
yeah.
like, we go back a couple of years, and I remember all the different radio stations that you would do the recordings in and all that. So you've done a tremendous amount of work and good for this country, I think, and everyone in it, but also globally. You're a coach and a mentor to many, and myself included, and I appreciate you just as a human being and your service that you've done.
Well, I love life. I love my life, and encouraging people to be all they can be and recognize their own potential is a huge thing. Because frankly, don't you want that for everybody?
I do. makes it better for us too.
Yes, life is better if people can be as fulfilled and as efficient and effective and productive as they can be. And that doesn't mean non-stop work but having a balanced lifestyle. But all of that only works if somebody's protecting you.
That's
And being
it.
a protector reinforces things.
Absolutely.
So
It's
thank you,
better
Craig.
life. Thank you.
I think we're going to be friends for a long time.
I hope so. How can people contact you if they want to get a hold of you?
Frontlinesoffreedom.com.
All right, folks.
Makes it easy. Or you can contact this guy. We can't get away from each other either.
Right. Thank you so much, you folks out there, for joining us today, and thank you, Denny. I appreciate everything, brother. All right. All right. I'll see you guys around.
We did it.